What's going on, everybody? Tony Michael will be here in just a moment. He was having a camera issue. I'm just looking over the other screen to watch if he comes in. There he is. Let me admit him now. What's going on, folks? My name's Dave McRae, coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto, Canada. He's Tony Michael in Atlanta, Georgia, who's just shown up. This is episode 162 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live! We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 162, episode 10 of What If. We haven't done a What If scenario episode in a few months. This is episode 10 of What If, and today we are talking about what if Laurie Strode never died. I'm not talking about at the end of Halloween Resurrection. I'm not talking about maybe at the end of Halloween Ends. We have no idea yet. I'm talking about how she was killed off screen when we get to Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. And of course, we find out that Laurie had a daughter named Jamie Lloyd. And, but Laurie and her husband were killed, what was it, in a plane crash or a car accident or something? It was a plane crash, wasn't it? I think it was a plane crash.
No, I think it was a
car accident?
I think it was a car accident.
Car accident. Yeah. Anyways, they were killed, and we are left with the niece, Jamie Lloyd, Danielle Harris herself, who was adopted by the...
her daughter, not her niece, her daughter.
I meant Michael's niece, sorry.
Oh, yeah, Michael's niece, yeah.
But you are correct, yes. Laurie's daughter, Michael's niece, the niece. And she was adopted by the Carruthers, of course, and the rest is history. But what if, and we are, we obviously are not the first to kibitz about this and sort of pontificate about this, but it's interesting. What if Laurie had come back? What if she did come back? What if, and listen, Jamie Lee Curtis, of course, you would always have hoped that Jamie Lee Curtis would have come back to reprise her role as Laurie Strode. But at the end of the day, it could have been somebody else. If they wanted to go in that direction and they wanted to recast, the actor, they could have done that. And, if as long as you put the due diligence into casting somebody who has, the essence, who you look at and you go, oh yeah, totally. I mean, obviously it's not Jamie Lee Curtis, but you know what? That's good. There's definitely a resemblance. There's definitely a likeness there. Cool. Good job, guys. Good job on the casting. They could have done that. They could have gone that route. Now, I know she's very identified with that role, and that probably would have made some people angry, but the principle's the same. It happens all the time, you try to avoid it, but it's not unprecedented. It has happened in the past with certain movies, certain actors, being recast, whatever the case is. You always hope to get the original, but at the end of the day, we're talking about Laurie Strode, not just Jamie Lee Curtis. So keep that in mind as well, because it could have been somebody else that they just went with. But a fascinating thing, and this was Tony Michael's idea, sent me a text earlier last week or late last week, was like, dude, what about this?
What do you think?
What do you think of this? And I was like, yes.
Because there's a lot of ways you can, there's so many ways you can go with this, you know what I mean? Uh-huh. And one of the main things I said in my text to Dave was if we kept the heart, the identity of what we love from Halloween 4, meaning you keep Jamie, you keep Rachel, but you make some obviously important changes, starting with, Jamie's obviously not living with the Carruthers at this point. You know what I mean? That's obviously the big change. The escape you can still do, you know what I mean? So that's still intact of how Michael's being transported out of the hospital and everything. You don't have to change much with that. I thought of this. I thought what would make this movie a good, kicking it off, after a short hiatus, from 81 after Halloween 2 is done. would be kind of setting this movie up to be a passing of the torch from Laurie to Rachel, because she is a fan favorite in this franchise as a final girl, whether she's first or second, depending on who you're having a conversation with. Laurie, I understand, is always going to be the heart, but Rachel definitely is a fan favorite amongst fans, and obviously got fucking, the shit stick at the end in Halloween 5, which wasn't fair to her, the actress either. So anyways, the point was that I thought what would be cool is how could we work this with kind of, as you're watching this Halloween 4 progress and develop, you know what I mean? That, maybe instead of making Rachel so, not keen on the idea of babysitting Jamie, maybe you write the character more of like she's doing Laurie a favor because Laurie's got to go out. You know what I mean? Maybe Laurie's going out with some girlfriends on Halloween night. She hadn't been out in a while. Maybe things didn't work out with her. You can write her as a single mom. You know what I mean? Like things aren't working out with her and the dad, Jamie's father, and Rachel's doing Laurie a solid by babysitting Jamie. You know what I mean?
Right,
and
right.
You can also set it up to where Brady is going to meet Rachel at Laurie's house be so you can keep a lot of the heart of what they wrote with Halloween 4. So it just changes some of the narrative just a little bit to obviously, fit Laurie into the franchise to the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, when you told me a bit of this, in text and I like where you're going with it. I think if you were to bring back Laurie, and again, you always hope to get Jamie, right? I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis, right?
Yes.
You hope to get her. Obviously, there's that emotional, nostalgic continuity connection with the same actress. But we're talking about the character. So if the character was there, and I like it. I like that she would be like, 30 now. I mean, she wouldn't be
closing
that old.
in on it. She'd be what? If it's 10 years,
29, 28, 29. Like which means she would have had Jamie pretty quick, very soon after the events of Halloween 70 or Halloween 2, which would have been 78. Because Jamie Lloyd in 88 is like 10. So
which is possible. You know what I mean? It's just not impossible.
We might have to fudge some of the. I mean, maybe one of the celebratory things that she did after exiting the hospital was just randomly hooking up and getting married.
I thought Jamie, the character Jamie, was 8 or 9.
Oh, was she 8 or 9? Was she?
Something like that.
Because I know Danielle Harris was like 10 or 11.
She was 10 or 11, but I thought because I could have sworn that she was 8 or 9 years old. But either way, you'd have to kind of.
You might be right.
You definitely have to write it if you're going with Jimmy from Halloween 2.
Right.
As Jamie's father.
Which I think you could. Well, it depends, right? Because we're left. What cut are you following? Are you following Halloween 2, the theatrical cut, where we're just left to assume that Jimmy died there in the car from some sort of massive aneurysm from hitting his head, or do you go with the weird TV cut of Halloween 2? Which I don't know if you guys have seen the TV cut of Halloween. It's fucking weird. There's shit that's not in the same order. Is that where
he's the one who's he sits up and it's Jimmy?
Well, that's like the least weird thing about that the TV cut of part 2,
right?
But yes. So if you were to go with that, well, then we clearly establish that he's alive. However, if we don't go with that, I think it should just be some guy, just somebody.
Ooh, I like the idea. Evil Alex said maybe it's Ben Tramer. Oh no, doesn't
Ben Tramer was killed in part 2?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
So
that's right.
I think her
can be random.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like this idea that it's got to be somebody that she liked. No, it doesn't have to be Ben Tramer. It can't be him. It doesn't have to be Jimmy. It's just some guy she met. Maybe it was somebody she met a year after the events and really sort of felt for her and, wanted to help her through her, recovery and all that kind of stuff. Whatever the case is, right? Some guy named, I don't know, Bob, Steve, whatever. We don't know who he is. And she has Jamie and she's killed and excuse me, she's not killed, and it's Halloween 1988, and you could show that she has moved on, but she still suffers from some sort of residual effects of that night. She's a little protective maybe of Jamie when it comes time for Halloween. You can bring a lot of those.
You could even write that in, like, you know, Jamie's begging her mom to let her go trick-or-treating
100%.
with Rachel, and Laurie's like, you know, very reserved and finally gives in. Finally just says, okay, look, as long as you take, you know, bring her here, and, you know, wherever, you know what I mean? Because you still want to write it where Rachel and Jamie, you know, you still want to write that element where Rachel and Jamie are trick-or-treating, get separated, and shit starts
100%. Well, and here's what you could do. You could have, like, a lot of the things that they've written, you know, some of the things we're going to talk about here, there's no doubt that the viewers will be like, well, that kind of sounds like this, or that kind of sounds like what they did here. And that is because there's only so many scenarios, there's only so many ways you can write this, right? Like, if you think about it logically, if you include the events of 1 and 2 and you want to add some realism to it, well, she's going to be suffering from some sort of PTSD, some sort of residual effects, right?
And it's her brother still, right?
100%. It's her. That's right. So now that doesn't mean that it's fresh in 1988 because it's been 10 years, but she's been through therapy. She's been through it. Instead of her being sort of the Sarah Connor like she was in Halloween 18, she's sort of probably where she is, where we're going to see her in Halloween Ends, like sort of trying to move on with her life, you know, writing a book, you know, whatever the case is where we could see her 10 years removed at nearly 30 in 1988. She's been through therapy. She's a lot better. She can hold a job, but she's still, you know, there's still certain things that sort of get to her a bit.
I'd make her kind of like, you know what? I'd make her like a townie, like she's a waitress in town. You know what I mean? Just very kind of
could do that.
Country, you know, they don't live in a lavish place. It's just her and Jamie, right? And
Geeked Out Turtle Fan says Jamie Lloyd was 6 in Halloween 4. No, that's too young. That's too young. 6? I
mean, quick Google could confirm that if you wanted to Google it.
Yeah, I'll look that up in a second, but I can't. 6. That I mean, 6 is not okay. Let's just put it this way: if that's true, and I'm not saying that you're wrong. But if it is true and that Jamie Lloyd is supposed to be 6, that is one big fucking 6-year-old. Like, I'm telling you right now, and I find that hard to believe. Like 8, I could be like, okay, 8, 9, sure. 6? So she's in the 1st grade? I find that hard to believe. But
well, he's not lying because I just Googled it. In the novelization of the 4th Halloween film.
Oh, novel. Fuck the novel.
Jamie's 6 years old.
Fuck the novel. No, the novel, fuck, people put so much stock in the novel. They're written after the fact. I just find it so...
Let's just go with, say, between 6 and 9. Somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah, because I find it very hard to believe that she's 6.
Frank's right, too. 6 would be kindergarten, and there is that school scene, which is one of my favorite well-acted scenes.
Well, she looks like she's in, like, 2nd or 3rd grade, which would be like 9, 10. She looks like 2nd or
3rd grade.
That's exactly. 9, 10.
She doesn't look like kindergarten.
No.
You know what a kindergartner looks like.
Right now, Google like 6-year-old girl and watch what happens on.
Careful.
You know what I mean. But just Google 6-year-old girl and go to Google Images.
On the watch list now.
Go to Google Images and you'll see pictures of like kids that age and you'll be like, oh yeah, no, this looks a little, you know. But anyway, we digress. So But so you know, she's there and she's in 88. She's trying to move on with her life. She has this daughter, right? And to your point, Rachel is somebody who lives in the town. And Rachel is the babysitter. Rachel knows Laurie, knows Jamie.
Well, there's the reference in Halloween 4 where Rachel talks, or Jamie says to Rachel how she was lucky, or no, however that conversation went on the couch, where Rachel acknowledges being babysat by Laurie. So you can even reference that, you know what I mean? That, you know, there's that tie there. Maybe there's a really tight bond with Rachel and Laurie as well, too. You know what I mean? Because of that.
Jimmy Dean says that Danielle Harris was born in 1980. She wasn't. She was born in 77.
She's older than us.
Where are you guys getting this information? You guys are like,
she's definitely not born in 1980. She's older than Dave and I by at least a year.
A year or 2 years, I think. I think she was born in 77. So anyway, right. So, and when we see Rachel babysitting Jamie in Halloween 4, in this new version.
She's not reluctant anymore. She's more open
not
to
reluctant because it's also not the first time that she's babysat her.
Correct.
She's been babysitting Jamie for years. And she's being paid. Right.
Yep.
So because, she's being paid by Laurie. And I would say that Laurie and her husband are just maybe going out. They're just going over to a friend's party or something, and maybe Laurie's a bit reluctant or whatever. Like they're just out. They're out somewhere where Jamie has to be babysat. Jamie wants to go trick or treating. I think Jamie has never been trick or treating.
Correct. This would be her first. That's the way you would write it, as this is her first time.
And Laurie
going. Yeah.
Yes, and Laurie has specifically said no. But Rachel reluctantly sort of gives in to the cute little girl that's never been, you know what I mean? And she's like,
here's the deal. Okay.
Right. Don't tell your mom. We got to go out and, whatever the case is. Yeah, you could totally spin it that way for sure. But this would be a movie where you bring Laurie and Michael back together, where they have a confrontation. But I think Laurie sacrifices herself to save Jamie and or Rachel, whatever the case is, right? So there's that sort of that symbolic, as you said, that kind of passing of the torch, right? Where she's, I don't know, like I don't want her to just kind of go out in a whimper. It's
well, the way
Laurie,
I was
right?
thinking was, even though it's you got to suspend your disbelief. It's such a cool scene though. In that truck scene at the end, you could do it two ways. You can have Rachel still as the driver with Laurie holding on to Jamie in the front seat as Michael is, grabbing and not just grabbing one side, but he's going on both sides. He's attacking, Laurie on the one side and he's going after Rachel. You can kind of go back and forth, or reverse it. It could be Rachel holding on to Jamie and Laurie's driving and she's, hold on tight, something like that. And then it's Michael still, instead of going back and forth, he's just trying to get to Laurie, falls off, and that line, "Die, you son of a bitch," is Laurie saying it. Laurie hits Michael with the truck. And after the impact, she looks at Rachel and says, "Stay in the truck." And she walks up to Michael. And maybe as, Laurie gets out and she goes to Sheriff Meeker and everything. She's like,
I get it.
You can still have that same dialogue. 100%. I think we killed him. I think and then Michael grabs the knife. He sits up and he cuts, and Jamie watches her mother being killed by Michael as Laurie falls to the ground. And then that's when the shots start ringing.
Yeah, you know what? I like that. I like that a lot, because then what you could do is you could still have Halloween 4 end the way it ends, with Jamie at the top of the stairs, Dr. Loomis going, no, all that kind of shit, right? Thinking
even
that
without the touching of the hands, right? We're not going to do that.
Yeah, no, for sure.
It's that witnessing Michael killing her mother maybe has some type of an effect on her.
Who knows? It's unexplainable. Who knows? Maybe there's a genetic hereditary psychotic defect who knows?
Or you don't. You end it right there. You know what I mean?
Well, you could end it right there. Well, again, there's several ways you can do it. If you want to continue the story, then you got to think about what's your end game. How are you going to approach? Because the original idea with Dwight Little and his co-writer there was that Michael Myers was dead. That was like the original idea for part 4 was when Michael was shot and he falls into the mine or the grave, whatever. He is dead. And Jamie, it was being passed on to Jamie. Now, whether you like that or not, that's a whole other discussion. But that was the intention, was to set it up.
Do you think they would have?
Very similar to what they did with Pamela and Jason. In terms of, there was sort of that passing, but Mustafa Cod obviously was like, no, we can't do that. We got to keep bringing back Michael. I understand why.
Smart.
But at the end of the day, if they
do you think with Jamie Lee Curtis being in it, that Dwight would have written it still the same way with that in mind, or would he have changed that idea?
I have no idea.
With Jamie Lee Curtis being a part of it, because I think he probably would have changed that idea.
He probably would have. You're right. He probably would have. Yeah, and when I think about it now, it's okay. So it's this: if you want the story to continue, then you can't do that.
Well, this is what you could do.
Hang on. If you don't want the story to continue and you want this to really end on a real, you kill Laurie, right? The way you said, you see her like totally like, what the fuck? And you do end with Jamie at the top of the stairs, sort of like taking over that thing. But the trick is you can't make any more movies. You know, like I always say, even as Halloween 4 is right now, even without our ideas, it's too bad in some sort of, you know, I always hope that there's an alternate universe out there that is the actual end, because think of how powerful that would be if they never actually made another Halloween movie. And it's not just that it's shocking, it actually makes sense to the arc of the story, that evil wins, it comes full circle. You got a girl in a clown costume in and around a similar age, although I think she's older. You know, you have her stabbings. I mean, it's totally, it is the complete opposite of Halloween H2O, which is about redemption and revenge and you know, sort of, you know, rising above it and all that. This is on a down note. It is completely like, no, it hammers home that you can't kill the boogeyman, evil wins. And Loomis is losing his mind because he knows it's starting again. And he was actually about to murder that girl. He was about to murder that little girl. That's how much he could not go through it again. He was about to shoot her and Meeker stopped him. Ending on a note like that is like the ending of The Mist, you know, where that's thing where you're like, oh my God, you know, it's one of those kind of like, but you can't make any more. You know, the ending to The Mist would be not nearly as effective if there was a Mist 2. You know, like you can't, when you have such a shocking, horrific, whoa ending, you have to leave it there. You know, and that's difficult to do if it's really successful or if people want more and they're you know, no more. It's really hard to do. But if the intention was to never make any more, that would be an incredibly shocking ending and just a double exclamation point on Laurie's death, you know, where it's like, fuck, like what the hell is going on here, right? But if you want to continue on and you want to then pass the torch and tell the story of Jamie and Rachel again, sort of kind of like what you said, really building on that relationship, then I don't think you would do that necessarily.
No, and what I would do, what I would do is after you have that moment when Michael kills Laurie and Jamie witnesses it, and then, you know, Meeker, the good old boys and the cops start blasting Michael falls down, you know, into the same thing happens. And then you see Rachel carry, you have that cut shot where you're back at the Carruthers house and it's Rachel carries in Jamie into the house. You know, Loomis says that line, you know, they survive this night, they'll survive its memory. Yeah. And then you can have Meeker say something to Loomis like, I need you to step outside for something like that to get Loomis to come outside, right? You know, and you have this like shot on Rachel and Jamie just like totally fucking spent, you know, like, you know, and Loomis goes outside and that's where you can have a quick dialogue of Meeker says to him, we couldn't find the body. And then you just have Loomis look up, just like in the original Halloween, a good callback, like he looks up and he looks up into the darkness, and then boom, you hit the Halloween theme. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you kind of end it with the fact that he's still out there again. You know what I mean? You don't have, you're sort of recycling the shot of the original film, but you're not doing it identically. Or you know what I mean?
Or what you could do, because Loomis, in Halloween 4, he was very independent, like in a sense, he had his limp and he was older, but he was getting around, you know, and he was kind of doing his own thing, and he was going over here and leap, you know, the gas station explodes and he, you know, leaps into the corner, although that's not Donald Pleasance, but I don't think it is, you know, but he's very motivated by Michael. What you could do is you could have Meeker say that, or you could have, it would probably be more powerful if it was just Donald Pleasance believes it, but there's he needs to see for himself. You know, it's almost like Loomis needs to. So like, you know, you have that whole scene at the end of the movie where they're at the house and Michael is dead and, you know, whatever.
And maybe so what you could do then is
he goes
like
back.
You could have, I was going to say,
he goes back.
You have Meeker have that conversation, and then you have an end shot of looking down. What is it, like a mine shaft?
Something like that. But
it's empty.
Yeah. Or yes. Or you just, instead of Loomis saying Michael Myers is dead, he's gone, whatever, which gives the audience the belief that he truly believes that, maybe there's something up, maybe there's just, he needs to see it himself, but whatever the case is, it'd be cool if he goes back and it's just him. And the dust has settled, the smoke has settled.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And he's back
I like
there,
that.
and
I get what you're saying. Yeah,
he's lifting up the boards or whatever, and he's trying to look, because he was very much like that in part 4. He was always getting into stuff and looking around, and and he's there and he's lifting up shit and he's looking down there, and maybe he even goes in. He fucking, I don't know, climbs down there or something.
Simpler than that. I would just have like you said, the conversation at the Carruthers house where he says to, he needs to see it for himself. And then you have a cut to shot of Loomis driving up that, country road. Yeah. You have the cops out there with, the caution sign. Loomis, goes underneath the caution sign with his flashlight, or maybe you could even have it to where it's kind of just slightly, early morning. So there's enough light so that you can see into it yourself. And then you have that camera shot of maybe some rumbles or something that it looks like it's been moved, you know what I mean? And there's no body there. And then that's when you have Loomis look up into nothing, basically, that knowing Michael's still out there, or and cut to black Halloween theme. Or
you're down at the bottom. He's standing there at the top looking down, and the camera is at the bottom of the mine shaft, right? Looking up at Loomis. And it's let's say it's like, 20 feet or something, right? So you see him like kind of like this, that big, right? And he's looking, he's really, he's not tiny in the frame, but he's kind of far away. And you're looking up and he's looking down and there's nothing there. And then you just slowly push in on him and you get closer to him and closer to him and closer to him and closer to him. And then eventually you get to like sort of a medium close up. And he's just staring down, and the music, hits and begins to play, and you just cut to black, and it's like, he knows, he knows he's not there.
Well, I would give the audience at least a shot knowing that no one's there. That the rubble has been disturbed, it's been moved, and Michael's gone.
Yes, for sure. The audience would know that he's not there. Yes. Yeah.
And then there you go.
So many ways you could do it.
That's your setup for Halloween 5.
And then Halloween 5. You
don't have to write Jamie as a mute.
No, you don't. And Halloween 5, that's right. So if you wanted to end it there completely, it might be interesting. Although to your point, it may not work if Laurie came back to end it with Jamie at the top of the stairs. It may not work but it depends, right?
No, you just don't do that scene. You don't have that moment.
No, I know. If you want to continue, you don't do that scene at all. If you want to just end it on sort of, because there's something about that. I actually really like the ending of Halloween 4.
Use it for 5. You could
push
save
it to
for 5.
Push it to 5.
You could even make like, like in Halloween 4, when we're introduced to Jamie and she's having the Michael nightmares, you could use that as part of Halloween, the new Halloween 5, that, Jamie's having these nightmares that she feels that her uncle's coming for her. You can have that conversation with Rachel and Jamie, just the dialogue would be changed up a little bit where, where she's like, it would have been, I think she says it's been 11 months or something like that to Rachel.
Like
so it's about a year. So it's almost an identical conversation. But I would have Rachel more sympathetic to the fact that because Jamie witnessed her mom being dead, I would have Rachel more along the lines of like, he's not coming for you. You know what I mean? It's been, it has been that long,
Yeah. You want to nurture that relationship between those two. And with Laurie dying, now you have an opportunity to have them have their own movie, which would be part 5. And to your point, if you really wanted to shock the audience and you wanted 5 to be the last one, there's, do you end it on a positive note, or do you end it on not a negative note, but an evil note, right? A not so happy note. And I've always really loved the ending of Halloween 4.
Same. It's my second favorite to the original.
It's a terrific ending. The problem is that they made more. And when you make more, now Halloween 4, the ending is just kind of like, well, what's your end game, right? Like, how are you supposed to?
Sure.
It should have just ended there, because the whole message is complete. Evil wins. It's starting again, and Loomis can't take it. There it is. End. So that ending really only works if you don't make any more. But to your point, yeah, maybe you do. Maybe you push that to 5, and it's like, wow, that's really intense. Even the ending of 4 as is right now, talking about Laurie getting it with Michael would be quite an intense ending. But yeah,
because there's parts of 4 that obviously you wouldn't use in Halloween 4 with Jamie Lee Curtis attached to it.
Correct.
But you could take a lot of that and move it over to the new Halloween 5.
That's right.
That's what makes this work so well.
Yes.
Including with that ending. Now, whether or not you have Rachel live or die, that's entirely, that could be left up to, you could, because that sacrifice moment that happens in Halloween 5 where Tina sacrifices herself, you could have that as Rachel. But I would, if I'm going to sacrifice Rachel and kill Rachel off in Halloween 5, I would get it in the third act and like really close to the end somehow, so that there is a moment that there's a moment of, and not Michael taking off his mask and you just like me, Uncle. Look at me. No, none of that shit. But you got to have a moment where Jamie and Michael do have that connection, to where you get back to the Carruthers house. And then you have that moment, like you said, whether Rachel's still alive in that moment. Again, you can play it either way, yes or no. And then boom, you have.
You would have scene. To, yeah. The only thing with Jamie turning, although I guess that would be, yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I wouldn't want there to be any sort of telepathic connection though between Michael.
No, but you
got
to have a moment to where, because I think people resonate with Halloween 4. They think of the moment when Jamie touches Michael's hand and then she does her, they think there's that moment there where, there's that connection that Jamie and she has with her uncle, which is why she turns, and has that moment against her stepmother, Mrs. Carruthers. So you got to have something like that, but certainly not to the cheesy level of what we got in Halloween 5.
No.
In the coffin and uncle.
No, that's right.
No, none of that shit.
No, I agree. No, it'd have to be something,
similar, done tastefully, where Michael's on the ground maybe and she grabs his hand,
or what you would do is, if you knew you were going in that direction, you would have to plant it in 4. So you'd have to plant it, and what I mean by that is that if you want it to be unknowable and not some sort of evil life transfer, you'd want to plant it that Jamie is a an introverted kid. She's maybe a strange kid. Not 4. You would start to bring that into Halloween 5. You would sort of reverse it. Maybe the nightmare she's having, it's not done as intense as it was in Halloween 4, where Jamie's screaming in the closet. But maybe she's having these nightmares and having these visions. And what that is doing to her is it is making her become more of an introvert. I see what you're saying.
More reclusive, so that you're seeing these signs throughout this movie that leads up to Jamie.
Yes. Yeah. No, you're right. If you want to do it that way, yes. I was talking about more of sort of a more nuanced kind of like it was always there sort of thing, but they just completely missed it kind of thing. If you were going to do that, you'd have to plant that early on in 4, and then you would go back and look at 4 and go, oh shit, it was always there. I completely missed that. But to your point, yes, if you want to do it that way, then you would start doing it in 5, and that would be. And listen, I'm probably thinking way too deeply. These are slasher movies. Your way would be the right way to go. At the end of the day, you don't want to get too cerebral. So I would say that would be the way to do it. And she's being haunted by these nightmares. Fuck, you could even. Halloween 4 and 5 happened 11 months from each other. You don't have to have that here. You can have
some time.
You can wait a couple years, let that, Danielle Harris kid grow, and let her hit like 12 or 13. And now maybe it's been like 3 or 4 years, and she's been struggling with this, and Michael hasn't been seen, or he's, whatever the case is, right? Like there's a lot to work with there on what you want to do with the relationship. But the idea to bring Laurie back in 4 would have made, it probably would have made 4 better, if not just as good as it is now. And it certainly would have made 5 better. Because like you said, 5 is Jamie and Rachel's movie then, right? Whereas right now 5 isn't. Dominic, whatever his name is, wanted Rachel to die early because he wanted it to be like a psycho shocking moment. It's not.
Instead it just
shocking.
Pissed everybody off.
Well, yeah, because it wasn't, because it felt strange. It didn't. Yeah, it didn't feel like. It didn't feel like that at all.
Kill.
No, it didn't. And it's not like we were really following her. We weren't. She was just kind of. It's not like we were following her through the whole film, though. It didn't. It didn't land on that at all. But yes, it definitely would have made 5 a lot better. And then you probably
would. 4 you could do with Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie's character is as they're trick or treating, you can have a moment in the movie where Laurie realizes Michael has escaped and he's back in Haddonfield. So now she's going home. And when she gets home, she realizes Rachel's not there with Jamie. So now the movie becomes more about Laurie trying to get to Rachel and Jamie.
Yes. Well, what you do is you have Dr. Loomis find Laurie. Dr. Loomis finds Laurie. He goes to Haddonfield and he goes to Haddonfield
instead of going to the cops, he'd go to Laurie first.
Maybe he goes to Haddonfield because he believes that's where Michael is going, obviously, but he also knows that Laurie Strode still lives in Haddonfield. So, and maybe he's not even aware that she has a niece. Right. So why would he? Unless they kept in contact, and that comes down to the writing, but that's not necessarily true. Why would she keep in touch with him? It's not like they're going to become pen pals, right? It's totally believable that, she thanked him way back in the day, whatever the case is, and she's moved on with her life. This is before internet. This is before social media. You're not picking up the phone and calling Dr. Loomis and, hey, doc, so you want to go to the zoo today? She's got it's totally believable that she's got no relationship with him. She's moved on. He's moved on. He's doing other things. And this has happened, and he goes to Haddonfield, and he discovers from Meeker that Laurie Strode is still there. And he's like, holy shit. And maybe he discovers that she has a daughter. And now that just compounds for Loomis, because now he's like, oh, fuck. Not only is he like, she's here, she's got a daughter, so that makes his niece. And now it's like, because there's that line in 4 where it's like, don't you see what he's doing here? He says he's trying to, where did he find out that he had a niece or she had a niece? How did Loomis find out?
He knew already. He knew
already. Okay.
Yeah, because in that conversation, one of my favorite dialogues in Halloween 4 is when he's in the police station and he's like 10 years ago he tried to kill Laurie Strode. He's come back for her daughter.
Right.
And then Meeker's like, you mean Jamie Lloyd? He hasn't laid eye. He's been locked up since she was born.
Right. So
6 filling stations with flames. I tell you, Michael Myers. I don't know. I'm just totally ad-libbing.
No. It's good. It's good.
I don't know the dialogue, but that's basically that scene. So he knew.
Okay. Well, again, we could write it that he doesn't know. Or that he knows Laurie's there, but doesn't know she has a daughter, right? So he comes back, and that's just extra information that he finds out. And he's like, oh, fuck, we got to find them both, and then Meeker and him go off on this hunt in Haddonfield to find them. And they go over to the Carruthers house thinking, well, that's a good place the Strode house, whatever, right? Whatever her last name would be at that time. They go over there. Well, Laurie's not home because she's off wherever she is with her husband, and Jamie and Rachel are not there because they've left for, trick-or-treating. So they're like,
Laurie doesn't know that, and that's what
Laurie doesn't know that, right?
Frantic because she's like, oh shit, my daughter's not here. Where's my daughter? Where's Rachel?
And I would say that Loomis probably finds Laurie first probably, if he was to find her. And then, it's like, fuck, and now there's this hunt for Jamie, and Michael, meanwhile, is, tearing some people up, and he's trying to find her. And, oh yeah, I mean, obviously it would change from the Halloween 4 it is now, but if you bring back the character of Laurie, basically the reason why we wanted to do this What If episode today was because we wanted to see if we could create a Halloween 4 that makes a better Halloween 5, and something, and without a Halloween 6, because you don't need to go on, right?
No.
I mean, you could have 4, have our 5, and that's it. You don't have to go on and have the curse of Michael Myers and all that kind of stuff.
Or H2O.
Or H2O, or yeah,
or Resurrection.
Or anything.
Oh, God.
So Laurie does die, but she doesn't die in vain. She would die, taking out Michael. And to your point, she's right up there to the very end, fucking driving that pickup truck into him, and all that shit, whatever. I mean, she's taking control. She's taking charge. But she ends up, unfortunately, Michael gets the better of her. But it could happen at a moment where, like she's sacrificing herself. And what I mean by sacrificing herself, I don't necessarily mean that the character willingly sacrifices himself, like how, in the movies you see, somebody leap in front of a bullet to save their friend or something. That's a sacrifice that you make. I'm just talking about circumstantial sacrifices, right? So Laurie takes charge. Obviously, she takes charge because she knows what's going on. She's been through this before. She needs to protect her daughter. She needs to protect, her Rachel, at all costs. So just by her taking charge and sort of, taking control of the situation, she is putting herself in danger, in front of them. So she's sacrificing herself. That's what I mean by that, right? Not necessarily, actually willingly sacrificing herself. It's just that she takes control. And by doing that, she puts herself in harm's way, and you think that she's going to make it out, but unfortunately she doesn't, and Michael gets the better of her, slices her throat, down she goes. Jamie witnesses it, like you said, Tony, and it's like, holy fuck. And that begins recluse. Yes. I was just going to say that. You took the words right out of my mouth. I was just going to say that moment, that image is what, if you want to go the route where the ending of Halloween 5, she's at the top of the stairs and you ended on an evil note, which would be really cool, because then evil wins. Yes, you would look to that moment as a writer. You would look to that moment, even if the audience doesn't know it yet, you as the writer would look to that moment and go, this is our beginning. This is the moment, because she's going to have nightmares in 5, whether 5 takes place a year later or 2 or 3 years later. She has that how impressionable you are at like 8 or 9 years old. You see your mother murdered in front of you, throat slit, and the whole, and it's like, what the fuck?
Well, yeah, and that's where the whole visions of Jamie seeing, like, you could have it where she's still in school. She's not like she's not in a children's hospital or anything like that. She's living with the Carruthers.
She has counseling.
Maybe she has a moment where she's in the classroom. You can still have that dick moment of the kids bullying her, that Jamie's uncle's the boogeyman. You can have that.
Jamie's uncle the boogeyman.
But you can also have moments where, Jamie's in the classroom, she's doing, whatever, and, a callback. She thinks she sees Michael standing outside the classroom window.
100%.
A callback, just like what her mother went through.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or, you can have it to where, you could do subtle callbacks like that where Jamie is seeing, this vision of Michael, and it's making her more reclusive to have that payoff, like we said at the end, of Jamie standing on the staircase attacking I'm Mrs. Carruthers.
Yeah, I'm with, or Rachel, attacking Rachel.
Or that.
Like that.
That would be more of a shocker than Mrs. Carruthers.
Yes, 100%. And to be fair, I stand to be corrected, but I think Darren and Frank of the Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast were discussing something like that on one of their shows recently when they were doing, I think they were doing an episode of What You Didn't Know About Halloween 4 or something. So that might have seeped into my subconscious, but because I think they mentioned something like that and how shocking that might have been. If Darren or Frank are still in the chat, they can sort of give me a thumbs up if that's true.
Because you wouldn't see it coming because
you wouldn't see it coming.
This is supposed to be like, they're supposed to be like sisters. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Which again, the sister,
100%. But see, like even now, forget our idea. Even now, as Halloween 4 as it is now, if it was Rachel and not Mrs. Carruthers, how shocking that would be. You could even have that in Halloween 4 right now, the way it is now, and it would be really, really shocking. I think that's what it should be. I think it should be that she stabs Rachel. And it's like, what the? Because you would never, because what we want to do is we want to build a bond so strong between these two that, Rachel is not her foster sister, Jamie, but it's like she is because she's been through so much. So it's everything they go through in our Halloween 4 and everything they go through in our Halloween 5 that you build this relationship, this bond between them where you do not expect that would ever happen. They would never hurt each other. What? That's not going to happen. No way. Are you crazy? That's not going to. It'd be like Han Solo, stabbing Leia. It's like, what the fuck? Like, or, Indiana Jones stabbing Marion or pick your, you do such a good job of building this relationship of trust and transparency and love and affection. And that's what you want to do. They become sisters. Even though they're not sisters, they become sisters symbolically. And then at the end, it's like, what, you would not see it coming. So it ain't the Carruthers' mom. It is Rachel. And you don't see it coming because there's nothing Rachel does or says or we allude to, that she would ever do that. Why would it?
And the way you got to make it work is we have to, as an audience now, we have to definitively know Michael is dead. There's no, however you do it,
yes,
he's dead. He's not been captured. He's not, no, he is, we know dude is dead.
Yes.
Ain't coming back. It is done. So it makes the impact of that moment.
That's right.
Where maybe Loomis is in the house again with the Carruthers and, you can, whether you want to set it up to be the bath scene or Rachel's in her room and, you have, and Jamie puts on, you have the mask POV and grabs the scissors and you see, Rachel, sitting on her bed, whatever.
Maybe
she turns around and Jamie hits her with
What if Rachel is now? You'd have to do it where it doesn't look like it's staged, and you're not.
Oh, I know where you're.
You know what I'm talking about. You don't want, but to be fair, it could totally work. It could totally work. Yes, 100%. Now it could work, but the trick is to not make it look too campy and cheesy. It's got to feel organic. So you don't want it to be the same kind of mirror. You don't want it to be the same kind of vanity, right? You want the room to look different, but you want the idea of her sitting there. Maybe she's
sitting there like this, and she's like kind of like rubbing her hair, like she just survived 2 Halloweens like this. You know what I mean? Like she's collecting her thoughts. She's. I don't know. She's just kind of just looking at herself in the mirror,
right,
and just exhausted. And you don't really hear it, but you see the POV shot of Jamie getting closer to Rachel, and then Rachel maybe at the last second catches Jamie in the reflection, turns around, and she's kind of confused because Jamie's, whether it's a clown, whatever costume it is. And then you see Jamie lift up the scissors and she stabs Rachel a couple times. Now, whether Rachel lives or dies, you leave that, you have Rachel fall to the ground.
Yep, you leave that up to the audience, but I don't think we should know who is doing the stabbing, right? Until the end, right? So leave the audience to think that, is this Michael? Like, what the fuck's going on here,
okay,
right?
Good point.
Holy shit. And then at the end, Loomis comes around that corner and there's Jamie. And it's like, Oh, Jamie just stabbed Rachel?
So, okay,
Holy
so maybe
fuck.
her reaction then would be what I would do as a direction to Ellie would say, react as if like you think it's Mike, to make the audience think it's Michael.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, he's got her. And then, like you said, she does maybe kind of like the Janet Leigh, like trying to block the stab.
Right.
Or something, whatever.
Yeah,
and
she
goes to the ground. Yeah.
She screams.
Or you just hear her scream.
Screaming.
You don't hear the stab, or you don't see the stabbing like you do in. Did we see the stabbing in 4? No, we don't.
I don't think we do.
You don't actually see the because they show it in 5.
They show it in 5
in the dream sequence. So then we'll do it like you said.
Yeah.
All you do is you hear
way.
the scream of Rachel. And you're like, wait, what the fuck? No, like, oh my God, Michael got her. And then Loomis, makes a turn, looks up.
And it's like,
and
no,
it's
and
Jamie.
Loomis, like, think of how more powerful, it's powerful already, but think of how much more powerful it would be if that took place. And then it's like, she's in the clown costume, whatever the case is. And Loomis, it's like, and it's like, what the fuck? So yeah, you wouldn't want to go too far ahead. Okay, so the things you would have to, we'd want Jamie in the clown costume again, but it may not be the result of her trick-or-treating. Maybe she was at like a little Halloween party, or who knows, I don't know. Or maybe she was. Loomis now, depending on how our Halloween 4 ends, Loomis... he would be very heavily involved in 5 because because the way we have it now,
to take Jamie on as a client, as a patient, trying to help her, as she's becoming more and more reclusive,
and maybe
he's fearing that something like this could happen,
right? And maybe he can't because he's like 60 something. Well, not the maybe does he have his things we can play around with is, does he have his license to practice, right? I would say
yeah, because I think his argument, I think the way you would have him going throughout the movie is that no one's believing him.
Right.
But he feels that the way Jamie's becoming more and more reclusive, that he's telling people like, look, this is what Michael did.
Okay.
And he's seeing a similar pattern here. So and then you have that moment on the staircase of like, oh my God, he's saying his reaction is more of, I knew this was going to happen.
Dude. Okay. He's the one that she's possibly seeing. Now, he's older, but he wants to, it's almost like maybe it's even off the books. Like, I mean, like, it's not even, I don't know. I'm just imagining a scene where you have Dr. Loomis, who's, like 65 years old now, 70 years old now, sitting in a chair across from, 10, 11, 12-year-old Jamie Lloyd, and, he's talking to her and she's telling him about her dreams and this kind of stuff. And it's in this little room, with a clock ticking in the background or whatever. And dude, like, that could be some really great character moments with a scene like that, and great exposition that is properly motivated, and we're discovering
him having conversations with Meeker about how he feels. Jamie's, is heading down, and they're kind of brushing it off,
no
like,
way.
Dude,
no way. And at the same time, you have Michael coming back. So
exactly.
All of this is kind of happening at once, and Loomis is just fucking, he's losing it. He's like,
we're making Halloween 5 a really dark movie, which it should be, and it shouldn't end.
It's called Halloween.
And the cool thing with Jamie, and I think the cool thing with the clown costume is that's still Jamie's costume in Halloween 4. That does the 4 that we've rewritten with Laurie in there.
Right.
She saved it. She never threw it away. So she has enough. She can have her princess costume in Halloween 5.
So maybe she just puts it on.
That's what I'm saying. She puts it on at the end of 4. It on. You know what I mean? Because there's that, whatever. Because doesn't she have a picture of Michael in the clown costume that's in a black and white photo that's in her that was shown?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Someone in the chat room, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't there a moment? I should know this because Halloween 4. But there's a moment in Halloween 4 when Michael's in the Carruthers house.
I know there's the image she sees of him in the mirror, like almost like a vision.
I know that, but I could have sworn there's a photo that Michael himself picks up in Halloween 4 in Jamie's shoebox, and it's Michael in the clown costume that he flips, and he sees it and he flips it so he doesn't upside down, so the picture's not being shown. Right. I'm almost 100% positive there's that scene in there. So there's a symbolism to that clown costume for her, sure, with her uncle. You know what I mean? So her putting it back on, and that's the final image. Like, but here's the thing: God, she didn't get rid of it; she still had it, and even if it currently doesn't exist, we can write it in to exist. This is our version of Halloween 4, right? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So we just shoot it. People are saying, yes, Tony is right. Yes. Okay. So Michael does pick up a photo of himself. Yeah. That's what I thought. Okay. Then I would do that. Got that symbolism. I would do that instead of trying to figure out a way to get Jamie into the clown costume that is justified, like her going trick-or-treating again or to a Halloween party. Scrap that. She just puts it on to kill Rachel or attempts to kill Rachel. And we never know if Rachel survived or not. We don't know. We don't know if she survived or not. That's intense stuff. And here's the thing. And it ends. There's no more. It ends. There's no more. Nothing. There's no more. It ends on that moment of Jamie at the top of the stairs and now, Loomis if you want to come back and do the 2018 crazy film, I mean, that's, you can do that. Well, if you want to start picking and choosing and, at least there's only one timeline, right? But think about that. Think about what we've just done here in the last hour. And we saved the franchise. We saved the franchise. You don't have Halloween 6. You don't have Halloween H2O. I know there's a lot of Halloween H2O fans out there. You don't have Resurrection. You don't have Rob Zombie's films. You might still get those. Well, that's true. You might get those because that was during the reboot era. That's true. Oh, well, and you might even still get Halloween H2O and Resurrection because they were essentially reboots as well. But yeah, I think it's an interesting what if, and all of this is from what if Laurie Strode didn't die, and what if she came back. And now, I mean, could you still do this without her? I guess, but it's much more impactful from a character point of view with Laurie coming back. And then 4 is just about Loomis and Meeker trying to track down Laurie. They find her. They're like, oh my God, Michael's, what the fuck you talking about? I mean, the look on Laurie's face when she sees Dr. Loomis show up would have been like, and you know what? She knows from the moment she sees him. She knows something's wrong. Yes, and she knows. Yeah, you know what she would know. She would know, and it's like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? And then that great moment, that great character moment that you could build and have time to breathe, the shit you don't get in Halloween Kills, with legacy characters. You have a moment where, they lock eyes and there's a conversation and there's, you nurture that and there's some breathing room there and, you flesh it out a bit. And she's like, and all Laurie can think about right now is, oh my God, my fucking daughter. My daughter. I have a daughter. And it's like, where is she? We need to go find her, whatever. And then they go off and they try to find her, but they're out trick-or-treating, right? And Michael is on the hunt. He's on the hunt for her. And you can play this angle now because in this movie, Michael and Laurie are siblings. So you can play the angle that he's going back to Haddonfield for her. Now, maybe Michael doesn't even know that, that Laurie has a daughter. Maybe he doesn't. And maybe he somewhere where how he finds that info because he sees a photograph, and he sees a photo of Laurie and her daughter. I wouldn't even do that. I would almost play it as a coincidence that Michael's back in town, and he's going after these teenagers that Rachel, he sees Rachel, he sees Jamie because kids are trick-or-treating, and he locks himself in onto, obviously teenagers, Well, for sure. I don't mean to suggest that he doesn't kill anybody else in the movie and he's solely focused on, I know. On them. I just meant that maybe he discovers that. But at the end of the day, even when you watch 4 now, because Michael doesn't speak and because the character is ambiguous and on purpose, in 4 he's less ambiguous, but there's still the why and all that. You still play the angle that's what
the rest of the people say, he's coming here to kill that little girl and anybody who gets in his way. But Michael doesn't say. No one really knows, right? But I guess it's assumed that he is, and we could play it that way as well. I mean, he comes back, he kills police officers, he kills teenagers, he kills anybody who gets in his way. But it's clearly defined, like we as an audience get the impression that he is searching for his sister. Just as we get that impression right now in 4, right? Because it is the sister angle. That is the story. You would expect to play that up because it's a direct sequel to part 2. So it's okay then, right? It's okay to bring, the sister angle in there and everything that comes with it. You just don't want to make it where he's tunnel vision and he's not killing anybody else because he's so obsessed with just finding his sister. No. You got to have kills. You got to have great suspense and stalking and lurking and shadows and mood and atmosphere. You have all that. What you get, you get that in 4. You would get that. But Loomis and Laurie have to find Rachel and Jamie because they're out trick-or-treating. And then
they can find them at the school, same way. Like I said, you can keep a lot of elements that were already done. You can even have the rooftop scene with Rachel and Jamie escaping Michael. You can have that school scene, and you can have it to where that's where Laurie meets up with Rachel and Jamie. They finally connect. They get into the truck, ride off.
I was just going to say, it should be sort of towards the beginning of the 3rd act. Because Rachel and Jamie should come across him not knowing who he is, at first, right? Maybe like they're being chased by this weird man on Halloween night, and they're chased down alleys, and they fucking got to hide in bushes and shit, and maybe they have to break into this home there's nobody home and they're knocking on the door because there's this weird guy that's chasing them or something. So you get a lot of stalking and lurking in there. And then to your point, they wind up in a couple of different locations. And through that adventure that Jamie and Rachel are on, you're building that relationship. Yeah. So they go out trick-or-treating. They're trick-or-treating, they're having fun, but then they run into this boogeyman who is stalking them, and they gotta fucking get away from him. And you have this adventure that they go on trying to get away from this boogeyman, and maybe, like I always like to have, maybe bring in a thunderstorm, or something like that, and it begins to flash lightning and thunder and rain and stuff. That's just an added element that is so cool that we've never seen in a Halloween film before, largely because it increases your production budget by a huge margin. But
they wanted to have the roof on fire initially.
They did. But
that still would have been so epic.
It would. Well, that's what I'm saying. Imagine if Meeker and Loomis and Laurie now have to find Rachel and Jamie because now they go home and they're not there. So Laurie is like, well, I know where they are. They're at home because Rachel is not supposed to be taking Jamie trick-or-treating. So Laurie and Meeker and Loomis all head back to Laurie's house. They're not there. And they're like, what the fuck? Where are they? They don't even know if they went trick-or-treating. Right? You know what I mean? So then they go out on the hunt to try and find them, and maybe a storm rolls on in. I don't mean like a hurricane, but a storm rolls on in. Lightning begins to flash in the sky. It begins to rain a little bit, pitter patter, pitter patter, pitter patter. As the film goes on, maybe the rain picks up a little bit, in intensity, right? So now it's really pouring rain, and Rachel and Jamie are like hiding and maybe they break into this home that looks deserted or something.
The only thing with that is you wouldn't be able to have kids out trick-or-treating. It wouldn't be believable.
Well, no. It happens later. So what I mean is that when they first go out, it's not raining, right? But eventually a storm rolls in at some point, right? And that takes the trick-or-treaters sort of off the, it's I don't know, it's 8 or 9 o'clock at night now, right? So a storm has sort of rolled on in, and and they're like, well, I guess we should get back, but they get caught up in it. So the trick-or-treaters are like, heading home because it's raining. It's starting to rain, guys. We should head home. Well, I can see some lighting. Gotta go. Whatever, right?
You know who you just sounded like there? You sounded like the dude in South Park who's always like, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, which character?
The teacher. I think he's a teacher, isn't he? Is
No,
he a
I thought he
teacher?
was a guy. I think he's the guidance counselor.
Or a guidance counselor.
It's
okay.
not Mr. Garrison. That's the teacher.
Okay.
You sounded like that dude for a moment.
Okay.
I'm like, oh my God, he sounds like that guy. I can't remember his name now. Shit.
Well, I just think it'd be, and again, I don't mean a hurricane. I just mean,
I got you. I got what you're saying.
a storm rolls on in. It's just basically what it is it doesn't even have to rain that much. You have a bit of rain, and if you want, it depends what you want to do and the budget you have. If you need your rain towers and your rain sticks and all that kind of stuff, obviously it's going to increase your budget, but it really is just to add atmosphere, to add mood and atmosphere. So in the sound design process, you have the thunder rumbling outside, you have lightning flashing outside, right? So you get those those big lightning strikes that and that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
it can illuminate bushes in the inside of homes, and maybe Jamie and Rachel find an abandoned house. It's not the Myers house, but maybe it's like a house that they hide in, or something like that. Or maybe it's a house.
And you can have it as that old Victorian house. Just don't call it the Myers house. Whatever you do.
Bang,
not
dude,
Victorian, but you know what I mean?
Dude.
Yeah.
You take the Myers house, quote unquote, from Halloween 5.
But it's just an abandoned house, right?
Exactly. You put it in our version of Halloween 4 as just an abandoned house in Haddonfield, okay? And that's the house that Jamie and Rachel sneak into to hide from the boogeyman. Oh my God.
End up on the roof and have the rooftop 100%. From there and all that
and
shit.
it's
Hell
raining.
Yeah.
It's fucking raining. There's thunder outside. There's lightning fucking striking through those windows, illuminating dark corners and crevices and stuff. Holy shit, dude. Michael is on them. You got Laurie and Meeker and Loomis trying to find them. Now they're driving around in a fucking pickup truck or something with rain teeming down and the wipers going and they can stop
the pickup truck so we can have the pickup trucks.
Yes,
yeah, I got what you're saying. Yeah.
And then they stop because they see like some trick-or-treaters whatever, right? And they're like they roll down the windows like, have you seen it? No, I don't think so. There was some weird man or whatever. It's like, what the fuck? So they're on that tail and shit. Like, this is the shit that fucking works. This would be great. It'd be atmospheric and moody and intense and suspenseful and this kind of stuff. And you've got Jamie and Rachel alone in this house, and they don't know where they are, and they got to find them, right? And so you have Rachel and Jamie alone in this house, and through this adventure that they're on, through this, it builds their relationship.
You can still even have Jamie hiding in the duck. Like,
100%.
You can have stuff like that going on.
100%. And how cool it would be. It's not the Myers house. It's just some old rickety Victorian home that's been abandoned in Haddonfield for years. That's it. That's all it is. And then the house becomes fucking awesome. Well, it's still an awesome house. It's just not the Myers house. But then think of all the stuff, and you get rid of the Cult of Thor and shit on the walls. But you have like cool stuff. Oh my God, dude. And then eventually, yeah, they get up to the rooftop, something happens, maybe a fire is ignited or something, maybe the rain kind of stops a bit, enough to just where there's a fire that is, that's ignited on the roof, or maybe not. Maybe they just climb onto the roof and it's wet and it's really slippery, right? So they're like trying to get on there and they slide down the roof because it's raining and shit, and fuck, man. And lightning is flashing above. Like, I'm telling you, dude, come on, chat room.
And you know what you can do?
Seriously.
Just to reconfirm that it's not the Myers house, just as a tribute, as a nod, as a wink. You could, as the officers are talking to each other, they could say, yeah, they were last spotted up nearby the old Carpenter house. You know what I mean? You can call it the Carpenter house, so that
right.
You know what I mean? It's a nod to John Carpenter, little wink, a little tribute to him.
Yes.
But the house that they're in was the Carpenter home. You know what I mean? So
that
everyone knows this is not the Myers house.
100%. And what you would do is
the Hill house,
whatever it is.
Just just a tribute to
the old Charlie Bowles house, or the old
somebody that's
the old Craven estate.
or yeah, exactly. You know, the old Craven house,
whatever it is,
like that.
And one of the trick-or-treaters eventually sort of says, I think they don't say that they're there. They say, last I saw them was they were running past the old, Craven house or whatever it is, right?
And then maybe they think, like, do you think they went in there to hide?
Yeah, do you think maybe whatever? And then they go over there and whatever, and that's where Laurie and Michael come face to face. That's where Loomis and Michael come face to face. That's where Meeker for the first time sees, the shape, and it's like, what the fuck, man? Holy shit. He's going to call for backup, whatever it is. Shit's hitting the fan. Maybe Michael is shot, and he falls off the roof, or he falls onto the roof and slides down the roof in some epic fashion, hits the fucking eavesdrop and like onto the fucking lawn or whatever it is. They get in the truck. They're taking it. We gotta get out of here. All this while there's rain coming down and thunder, and lightning. I'm telling you, yeah, the budget goes up.
Well,
but
yeah, because seeing Rachel hang from the gutters as. Because the way I'm envisioning it, as you have Jamie struggling, she's hanging on the the wire that Rachel's strapped her onto.
Yeah.
She's able to get onto whatever the what do they call those things? There's a specific name for them. It's like a fence looking thing with roses that go. Oh my god, there's a word for it.
What are you talking?
Oh my God!
Trestle?
Where's Brooke and Sweetie? They'll know. They'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
You mean going up the? It's got vines through it and stuff. You mean like
it kind of looks like a fence, but on the side of the house. But it's not a fence. A terrace.
A terrace.
No, it's not a terrace.
A terrace.
Terrace.
I thought it was a trestle. No. Trestle.
There's a specific name for it.
No, that's
I don't know. And I see Rose. You see Rose is going up there. What's his name? Lattice. Yes, thank you. That's what it's called.
Okay.
Because Steve climbs up that in Stranger Things, to get to Nancy's room.
Yep.
It's the lattice that Jamie climbs down.
Yep. Trellis. That's what I was thinking of. A trellis.
Yeah. No. I think it's a. Whatever, you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So you need to have something like that at this house for Jamie to reach to and bring herself down.
Yeah.
So, and you can have it to where the truck comes up and it kind of like, it fishtails.
Yeah.
And now you see, Laurie gets out of the car. She's looking up. She sees Rachel, hanging as Jamie's climbing down. And maybe Michael stops swiping and looks up and he sees his sister now.
Yeah.
And then Rachel loses grip and she falls, but she isn't like hurt, not like in Halloween 4. You know what I mean? And Jamie gets down, and then that's when they get into the truck. Now, how Michael ends up on the truck, I don't know.
Don't know.
Part out.
But all of this, but all of this is really like it's some good shit. And this would all lead to obviously the big truck chase and Michael on the truck, whatever. And we don't want to completely change the DNA of what Halloween 4 is now. We're just restructuring it a bit to bring in Laurie Strode. Laurie Strode plays a pivotal role in the movie. She puts herself, in harm's way.
Maybe you can, as you're outside the old Carpenter house, maybe you could have it to where, Beaker shows up with, and they realize Michael's in the house. They're like, let's get in there and let's go after him. And Laurie's like, no, you don't. Maybe it's just like him and one other cop. And it's enough time, right? It's enough time that happens outside for them for Meeker to finally go in there, believable to the audience, to where Michael actually gets out of the house and he ends up in the back of the pickup.
Or what if there's this moment where they get Rachel and Jamie into the truck, they lock the doors, they say, you stay here.
While we go inside.
Right. Loomis, Meeker, Laurie, and a couple of cops go into the house. Now you walk in. There's no music. All you hear in the sound design is the rain hitting the roof up top.
Which would be cool.
And the creaking of this abandoned house. And you just hear thunder in the distance. and then the lightning will flash, illuminating dark corners every few moments. And they're walking around, and you hear the floorboards creaking beneath them.
And they got their little flashlights.
Yes, and they have their little flashlights, and because there's no electricity in the house, right? And they're walking around, and they know he's in there. The suspense you could build with that, and then of course something happens. Maybe the cops get killed. Maybe Meeker dies.
Or nothing happens. You know what I mean? Maybe like nothing. I said, you create this suspenseful scene.
Maybe
nothing happens. They come back outside.
I think fans would probably want to pay off. I think I'd want to pay off, but maybe, yeah. I'm just thinking like.
Well, because you're trying to get Michael to the truck.
Yes,
and that
I
would
understand.
give him enough time to get to the truck.
I understand.
And the fact that they don't see him in there, it's a false payoff. And I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
that the audience should get something, but I like the false payoff. I like building a suspense and then nothing happening to where they finally take off and go, and you get this sort of false sense of security, and now you're in the pickup scene of shit hitting the fan. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. I get it. Yeah, there's
here's the thing too. I wouldn't have Michael. First of all, it's just Laurie, Rachel, and Jamie in the truck. There's no dudes in the back. Michael is laying in the back. Okay, none of this hanging from the fucking shit and pulling himself up.
So he's not he's not underneath the truck like Indiana Jones.
No,
he's just okay. All right.
No, as a kid, as much as I love that scene, and I thought it was the coolest shit in the world. As a 43-year-old, I'm like, I don't know. But to get to that point, because the truck scene is, once you get Michael on top of the truck in Halloween 4, it's a cool ass scene. It's the getting to part.
I don't know how Rachel didn't hear the fucking shit going on in the cab.
That's what I'm saying.
I have no idea.
But if he's back there just being stealth-like, being Michael-like, they don't see him.
Yes.
And then you see him sit up. And someone has to see Michael sit up to alert the cops. Like maybe it's Loomis behind them. Maybe Loomis is in his, statey car and he's got CD. Right. And he, gets on the radio, Meeker, he's still alive.
But maybe it's not coming through because of the storm. So it's like
something, it's cutting in and out in between. Yes.
Is that Dr. Loomis, whatever? And then Michael, climbs up and smashes through the window, whatever. Truck starts, you totally.
have that truck scene. You just, pick up from right where, what we know of Halloween 4. And then it's just a matter of semantics. Is it Laurie driving or is it Rachel driving? I think Laurie driving would be more impactful while Rachel is holding on to Jamie.
Yes, I think it's Laurie driving because Laurie she's Mama Bear, right? So she's
watching now out for the girls. Right?
She's the natural leader in this situation. So she's obviously going to move into the driver position to drive. It's just instinctual. That's what she's going to do. And Rachel and Jamie are on the other side.
And again, you can play it both ways where Michael's reaching in, grabbing for Laurie, reaching in, grabbing for Rachel. You build up that suspense a little bit more to where eventually they slam on the brakes. Michael goes flying off the truck. And then it's Laurie saying the line, "Die, you son of a bitch."
Right.
And boom, hits Michael. And
Yeah, totally. And this all this does is set up a much better, more satisfying ending to the whole franchise, Halloween 5.
Yep.
And that's what you do because, I often say that
the end of Michael Myers.
Yes. I have often said on this channel, and some people have tried to sort of, maybe some people don't quite understand what I mean, or they've tried to say that I'm, wrong.
What, disagreed with you?
Yeah, I know, shocking, isn't it?
Right.
But I've often said that Halloween 5 is the movie that ruined the franchise. And, now technically you could say that Halloween 2, 1981, just existing sort of Halloween 2, 81 ruins the original intent of the character and the whole point of Halloween, the original. Yes, of course, just by sheer making a sequel and then you introduce brother and sister and all that, sure. But what Halloween 5 did is that when we look at it as a franchise, of course now the franchise from a box office perspective is sort of back on track, but the reason why I always say that Halloween 5 was the one that ruined the franchise is because Halloween 4 was a success. And although Halloween 4 has its critics, and it had its critics then, it wasn't completely, I don't believe it was completely annihilated, like Halloween 5 was. Halloween 5 is the movie that sort of introduces, the Man in Black and, the thorn tattoo. It just doesn't, it's so weird. It's the one that takes it in a different direction. People like to call 4, 5, and 6 the Thorn trilogy, but 4 has nothing to do. 4, there is no Thorn in 4.
There is no Thorn.
There is no Thorn in 4.
I don't hate it in the sense. I hate such a strong word.
Yeah, I get what they're saying.
I do, because it is connected, but 4 has nothing to do with Thorn.
4 has nothing to do. Dwight Little and his co-writer,
that was not their intent,
said we weren't going in that direction. They have said, and you guys know this, they have said, we killed Michael. We wanted to, I don't know what they were going to do with 5 in terms of Jamie and all that, but that's what we were doing. We thought it would be cool to have Michael there.
Dead,
he dies
where he belongs.
Right, exactly. It's what Loomis says. And we were doing this sort of the shocking ending with, Jamie. It had nothing to do with Thorn or anything.
You didn't even need to do a 5. Like you've said this many times, man. Like 4 is the most conclusive ending to this franchise because it comes full circle. Starts off with Michael as a kid, ends with Jamie as a kid in the clown costume. Yes. Full circle ending. Yeah. You don't need any more. It's a
great ending. Halloween 2 is a great ending. If you want a positive note. So Michael dies. He literally dies. He's burning to death in the fire. And Laurie is finally free, and she's in the back of the ambulance, probably being taken to the next hospital over. So that's a positive thing. If you want it to end on a down note or an uncertain note that kind of brings more of the message of the original film home.
That evil lives on.
That you can't kill the boogeyman and evil lives on. Then Halloween 4 is a terrific ending, not just ending as in an ending to a movie, but ending to the whole story. Because you are showing that poetry, you are showing that rhyming, you are showing that coming full circle. There she is, clown costume, just having stabbed, somebody, and she's ready to go. She's all set, and it's a child, and Loomis was going to kill her. And it's just like, oh, what a great ending. But you can't go on. Because the second you go on, you watch 5, the ending of 4 suddenly becomes dog shit. I'm not saying it's dog shit on its own. It's just when you watch 5 and you include 5 in there, then what the hell was that?
Aren't you manning up here again real soon and watching 5 again?
Yes, myself and Frank and Darren of the Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast.
God bless you guys. Better you guys than me.
On this Saturday, I believe at 11 a.m. Eastern, myself, Frank Riker, and Darren Sands, I'll make an announcement in the next couple of days. We will be watching Halloween 5 on their channel, not this channel, to celebrate their 3,000 subscribers.
Dave, didn't you watch Halloween 5 already?
Well, hey, I have nothing to do with it. They put up a bunch of movies, and that was the one that won out.
That's not what your audience will say. They'll be like, "It was Dave's idea."
It was all my idea. It was all my idea. But 5 is a and I love these people that say, "Oh, I just watch it from this perspective and it's good." And it's like, oh God, you could do that with any movie then. You know what I mean? Like, no, you gotta oh no, it's like an Italian giallo film or something, or it's like and I'm just like, oh no, it's not. No, it's not. Like people they try to justify things in their own mind so they can enjoy shit. Basically what is happening is that you're being served pizza with dog shit all over it. And what you're doing is you're closing your eyes and pretending it's ice cream. Okay, well, knock yourself out. But it does not change the fact that it's shit on a pizza. You know what I mean? Like, okay, go ahead. If it helps you get it down your gullet into your stomach, okay, fine.
I will say this. I can probably stomach.
I can hear the hate mail now.
Oh, I know. I can probably stomach Curse of Michael Myers more so than I can with 5. I just, it's because of what 5 does to 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly it. 5 ruins 4 so badly. I'm not saying 4 is, but 4 is pretty good. Like as a late 80s slasher, 1988, a return to Michael Myers. Yeah, we know about the mask and all that kind of stuff. But as a movie as a whole, it's actually a pretty good Halloween film. And 5 just ruins it. It absolutely ruins it. I agree with you.
Kind of like what Resurrection does to H2O, because I do like H2O for its faults, and it has
very similar.
It
Yep,
has
very
a lot of
similar.
faults, but it was well done,
Yep.
well made. It's my favorite portrayal of Laurie. If I had to be, and y'all know I'm not a fan of the character, but if I had to pick one storyline that I liked the most of the character, it's that one. I do like her portrayal of Laurie Strode. I like what she did. I wish that was more in line to this new run instead of the wannabe Linda Hamilton, gunslinging Ripley, aliens. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't, from the character we were introduced to in 1978 to where she's evolved now in 2018, I just don't believe that she becomes this, gunslinging, woman. And you know what I mean? That to me, no. But what I do believe is the way she was written in H2O is that she's this alcoholic, going through post-traumatic stress and having a hard time, seeing the visions of her brother everywhere and shit like that, and can't get over it. I believe that more than I believe how she was written in this new run. So I will give credit where, even though I know there's a lot of faults to the H2O movie. I get that. But the one thing they did get right, and I liked Hartnett. I thought he was a good cast. As far as, having Laurie having a child and changing it up and not going in the Jamie direction. Yeah, 5 it's definitely a toss up for, what I feel is the worst in the franchise between 5, Resurrection, and to be determined Halloween Ends, depending on what the fuck they do. It's still to be
5 is
I could end up loving Ends, but 5 is definitely, I'll say this, I will watch Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 now that I've watched it in full with you and I've watched it again. I will watch that before I watch Halloween 5, only because of my hatred for it, for what it did to Halloween 4 and what it did to Rachel and just like,
and look, I mean,
hats off to you 3 for watching
Halloween 4 was not it was not like a huge box office juggernaut.
To be fair, I think you have to be fair with that. That's 1988, and I think there was a bit of slasher burnout.
Right. I was just going to say that, but I think it cost about $4 or $5 million to make, made about 17 million. And by all accounts, 4 is largely considered a success, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I stand to be corrected on that. Moderate success, but it probably surprised them. It's certainly not a huge success, but 5, that's why they made a 5. It's why they rushed it into production, is because of the response to 4, and why it came out only a year later. And 4 is, as far as Halloween franchise movies go, so I'm including the sequels, 4 I think is probably the best one. I think it is the best Halloween. Well, apart from Halloween 2, of course, from 1981, I think Halloween 4 is probably the best one after that. I don't think it's 5. I don't think it's 6.
It like you say, not to repeat what you say, what 4 does is it gives you the mood and atmosphere of the original film.
Yeah, it does in a late 80s sort of way. Yeah.
Late 80s sort of way. And unfortunately, as I was saying, the timing of Halloween 4, I believe Halloween 4 probably would have done a bit better had it come out a few years early, like 85. I think the box office results on that would have been different. I think what you had going on there in the late 80s is, dude, you were just on this crazy run with Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street coming out with a new movie every other year. I think Leatherface even had a couple in there. Chucky, I think, came out with his first one in 88. So I think there was a bit of just people were kind of done, and
the slasher subgenre started its trajectory downwards in about 85 or 6.
Right.
Is when
so
it started to
I
head
think
down.
If it came out earlier, like in that 85, I think the box office results probably would have been a bit better. But I think we're also 4 makes up for it is in the VHS renting, buying. Yep. I think they did well on that part of it. Even though the box office numbers don't reflect that, but
the box office numbers
5. I don't know what the fuck 5 is thinking.
5 is Well, you know, I've said it all. I have a rant on my channel about it. 5 is the one that destroyed the franchise, and I say that because it's the reason we got 6. 6 is the reason we got H2O, and H2O is the reason we got Resurrection, and Resurrection's the reason we got Rob Zombie's reboots. Do you know what I mean? So if 5 had actually been good, we may not have needed to. Oh my God, what are we going to do? I don't know. Man in Black, what is he? I don't know. Maybe he's some cult thorn guy. That wouldn't have happened if we hadn't had 5. You know, or 5 was structured in the way that we talked about. There is no cult of thorn garbage shit, whatever the case is. 5 is the one that took the franchise as a whole and pushed it over here. And then 6 was, you know, okay, it's this. And the Man in Black, you know, I mean, they've even said they introduced the Man in Black in 5 just because, and I think even Mustafa Akkad had a hand in that, if I'm not mistaken, because they felt that there needed to be more mystery. There needed to be more. 5 was a little dull. It's Man in Black. And I was watching a clip of it the other day, and I'm sure people have talked about this, but I can't believe I haven't mentioned it yet. How ridiculous is it that this ominous Man in Black shows up on a fucking Greyhound?
Right?
Like, that is fucking funny shit, man. That is hilarious. That's
like nobody was paying attention to this shit.
Well, yeah, and oh, you're so big and powerful and mighty, you got to take the bus. You know what I mean? Like, are you kidding me? That's like fucking Batman riding the bus. You know, it's like, really, dude? And then, of course, he has to kick this little defensive dog just to remind the audience, yeah, I might be taking the bus, but I'm still a badass. You know, right. And it's like, well, come on. I can't believe more people haven't been like, oh, yeah, he rides the bus. You know what I mean? Like, really? How powerful? You know, I'm expecting this guy to show up in fucking Mike's car in part 5. Not you know, Michael Myers, but, you know, Mikey,
Tina's boyfriend.
Right. Like, if he showed up in a fucking car like that, or like a Challenger, a Charger,
right.
You know, a Camaro, you know, whatever, Mustang, you know, of that, you know, that's kind of like an older 70s kind of, you know, you know, yeah, okay. All right, shows up on a bus, and what is he? Does he have that stalking over his face when Danny in part 5 or excuse me, part 6 sees him? Because I'm under the impression that that's how they like roll. Because there's that scene where Danny in part 6 sees him on the sidewalk and he's got fucking nylon stalking over his head with a fucking hat. Is that what he was doing sitting on the bus? He's just sitting there with, probably not. He was, because it's supposed to be Dr. Wynn, right? But anyways, I just find it funny that Dr. Wynn had to take the bus to Haddonfield. He had to take the bus. That's right. Evil Alex.
Well, nobody
evil
gave him
but
driving
broke.
directions.
I know. It's like, it's just so, nobody mentions this. And even I haven't said this yet, but there may be a video coming soon, right? Because I want to have a video on my channel where I specifically call that out.
3-hour rant on the bus.
No. It'd only be like 5 minutes. But I got to get, because I can't believe out of everything I've talked about in Halloween 5, I have not actually said, wait a minute. He takes the bus. How come nobody's talking about this? This evil guy takes the bus. Why would he take the bus? Why is he on? And you want to know why? Do you want to know why? Because they didn't know who the fuck he was. And that's why. If they knew who he was, and if they knew what the story was, you see, we know what the story is now, right? In retrospect, we know who the Man in Black is. We know what his motive is. We know all that kind of shit.
Charlie Bowles.
Right, but I'm just saying we can laugh at it and we can go, well, now knowing all this information, we would never have him take the bus. That doesn't make any sense. But they didn't know who he was. They had no idea who this character was. So when they wrote that in there, oh, he just gets off a bus, they didn't think it was weird or cheesy or stupid because he didn't have an identity yet. He was just some weird guy that got off a bus. But now that you know that he's the head of this fucking epic evil cult, it's kind of like, riding a bus is a little lame. He should have like fucking like, you know, I don't know, like a fucking chopper or a Harley or something. Like, I mean, it just seems so lame. Anyway, I digress.
Anyways,
I digress. But really cool stuff. So, folks, before we jump over to the Q&A here, comment below if you're watching after the fact. Comment below and let Tony and I know your thoughts on a lot of the things we talked about here in an alternate version of Halloween 4, leading into our version of Halloween 5. Obviously, all of the details haven't been fleshed out here. That's not what these what-if scenarios are about. They're just two guys shooting from the hip, talking about, certain ideas of what might work and what might not work. But maybe you guys can expand on what we talked about and comment in the comment section below. Maybe you have some ideas where, we'll be like, oh, that's really good. We didn't think about that. Let Tony and I know in the comment section below if Laurie Strode survived did not die and she came back for Halloween 4. What would that mean for Halloween 4 and how would that set up Halloween 5? You've heard what Tony and I have had to say here today. All right, let's jump over to the super chats or to the.
I see people giving their top 5, so I'll give my top 5 in the franchise.
Top 5 Halloween films?
Yeah, Halloween 78, Halloween 4, Halloween 2, 81, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, and then H2O. I'm torn between H2O and Halloween Kills, as my 5 spot. I could go either way with those two films. So either H2O 5 or Halloween Kills 5 or H2O or Halloween Kills 5, H2O 6. What about you? What's your top 5?
Well, in no particular order. I mean, Halloween 78, Halloween 2, 81. Well, maybe I am going in order. Halloween 78, Halloween 2, 81, Halloween 4. I would say then probably 3 and maybe 18, maybe something like that. I appreciate 18 more now because of Kills. However, having said that, I might throw 6 in there a bit. 6 is not a good movie. I don't like the story.
It takes place in the fall though, and it looks like fall.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing with 6. I'm not a fan of Halloween 6. I don't like the movie, obviously, because I don't like the story and I don't like the direction. I don't care what version you're watching. It's the same story. And even quite frankly, I'd rather watch the theatrical cut because the producer's cut has Michael walking off into the shadows in a fucking trench coat and fedora. Give me
looking
a
like
break.
A gangster.
Looking like fucking, yeah. I'm like, are you kidding me? All he needs is a briefcase, and he's just, it's just so silly to me. But anyway, what I do like about 6, and this is only because we're coming off of 5, right? It's in comparison to 5. 6 has got great atmosphere, great mood, great lighting, right? It's got that storm, at the beginning and all that kind of stuff. It really does feel like autumn and fall. And Loomis, I think, is better in 6 than he is in 5, even though we don't get a lot of him. You get more of him in the producer's cut, but even still, you don't get a lot of him, but he's still better in 6 than he is in 5. 5, he's just, you know where he is. He's just this drunk lunatic. In 6, they've reeled him in, and he's more, he's better. So there's certain things in 6 that there's certain redeeming qualities that I can appreciate a little more in 6 than I do 5. So I might throw 6 in there, maybe over 18, depending on how I'm feeling. But those would be it for me.
But I can tell you the Halloween film I watched the most now is probably Halloween 2. I think it's more nostalgia for me because
81.
81. Yeah. Simply for the fact that when, I've mentioned many times, and I know it's hard for a lot of people to believe this, but when I was introduced to this franchise, obviously Halloween 4 was the first one that I saw. At the time, we couldn't get access to the original Halloween. All I had at my mom and pop local video store before Blockbuster came into town was just Halloween 2. And I rented the shit out
because Halloween 1 you just couldn't get.
Couldn't get it, couldn't find it, when you think about how spoiled we are now that I can just go on the iTunes, boom, presto, it's there.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It wasn't until 1993, about almost 4 years after the fact of 4 years after being introduced to the franchise, that I finally got to watch the original. So there's a nostalgia thing to Halloween 2 that I've been going through over the recent years and watching it a lot because it does remind me of my childhood. I had to use so much of my imagination to picture in my mind
Yes.
what the original Halloween was like by, picking my uncle's brain and asking him like, well, what happened here? Well, what happened here? And, and he's telling me the best that he could, of like what happened in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to picture it in my mind. And of course, your mind and what actually, ultimately happened, totally night and day difference. But because of that, and because I only could get to Halloween 2, I find it now that I'm older, you're getting older, that I have more nostalgia for that one because it's all I had.
Yeah. I still,
closest thing I had to the original.
Still to this day, I think it's the best sequel, and part of that,
even if Michael is walking up a ramp, who cares?
Yes, he does. Yes, he does, and
who cares?
His feet.
I mean, you literally see it.
His feet are completely level with the railing, which is kind of funny. But anyway, you know what? Hey, you forgive it. You forgive those little things. I get it. Low budget horror movie.
Let's get to it because I do got to run in 15 minutes.
All right, here we go. Super chat from Chris M sends in $2. Thank you, Chris. Says, hi, do you voice in any movies that were in theaters? Has my
voiceovers?
Yes. Has my voice been in any movies?
Did you do a cartoon?
Yeah, I've done several, but none that have been in the theaters.
Oh, I thought you did one like recently, like a cartoon movie or some shit.
No, it's on a kids network here in Canada, television. I've done stuff that like bit parts that appeared on like, Nickelodeon, all that kind of stuff. No, I've never done voiceover that has been in a movie that's been in the theater. What I have done is I've done movie trailers. I've done trailers for It Chapter 1, The Descent, The Crazies, Big Hero 6, Lego Batman, that kind of stuff. But that wasn't in the movie theater. Those were on TV. And I'm not the only one that does them, by the way. Like there's a lot of guys that do this stuff, and I was hired as one of those guys for some of those campaigns. But I have done a lot of commercials that have been in the movie theater. Like, when you go to the movie theater and you have to watch 30 commercials before you get to the trailers. I know I've done some spots that have wound up that have gone to the theaters before. I think, was it the Slim Jim ads I did? I think the Slim Jim ads I did a few years back wound up in some AMC theaters, I think. So you might have heard my voice that way, but no, I've not done a voice or a character that's been in a movie that's been in the movie theater. Not yet, but that would be cool. That'd be cool. Chris M sends in $2 again. Says, if you could have met Elvis or the Beatles in prime, who? For me, I'd probably go Elvis because of my dad, and I know more about Elvis than I do the Beatles. But what about you, Tony? Elvis or the Beatles?
I mean, Elvis. Although my mom was a huge Beatles fan, both my parents really influenced me to being an Elvis fan. So I'd have to say Elvis. I got a big ass poster of him hanging right there. So,
Cool.
Yeah. But it's no, the Beatles are the Beatles, they're legends. So yeah.
Yep, 100%. Pumpkinhead sends in $5, says, awesome theories, especially the storm idea. It will be awesome. Michael chasing Jamie in the rain. Then she falls in a pool, gets out. Ooh, and runs to the roof. Yeah, maybe there's a pool situation too. Yeah, never thought of that. And the pool is kind of like covered over because it's the fall, right? Not being used or whatever. And maybe it's cold and shit. Yeah. Yeah. See, that's cool. What I like. Yeah. Throw those ideas in the comment section below when the live stream is done. We'd love to read them. Howard sends in $5, says, pop quiz, hot shot. Pop quiz, what movie is this from? I never had any friends later on like the ones I had when I was 12. Jesus, does anyone? Well, it's Stand By Me.
Stand By Me.
Stand By Me. Yeah, I've actually referred to that exact line a few times here on this channel, talking about the 80s and nostalgia and all that kind of stuff. Yep. Okay, hang on a sec here. Pumpkinhead. Wait. Howard lines is from. Okay. Where Nomad has gone before. $5 says, I always wanted the man in black to be the guy hunting serial killers in Jason Goes to Hell. Oh man. I didn't. But I remember as a kid being so fascinated with who the man in black was. And so disappointed when we got our answer.
Yeah, I think like the rest of us were.
Yep. David Lee Barron sends in a very generous super chat of $19.99. Says, I saw E.T. in IMAX today, you lucky son of a bitch. Yeah. Oh my God, it was amazing. Everyone in the theaters, including kids, were laughing, gasping, and crying along with the story. Everyone was engaged. Can't believe it still holds up. Your thoughts on E.T.? Oh, I love E.T. It's a classic.
Classic.
That ending is great and emotional in the way that the music swells and I'll be right here. And then there's that climactic swell of the music. And it's like, it's great.
It's one of those movies where thank God a sequel was never done.
Yes. Yes. Could not agree more. I got to check to see if it's playing here right now. I don't know if
I haven't seen it IMAX. I've seen it in the drive-in a couple times in the drive-in as a kid too. And saw it in a re-release in the theaters late 90s or maybe early 2000s. It's been a minute, but not, no, I didn't do the IMAX thing.
Gotcha. Jeff Moore sends in $5, says, what if the average age to die was 175 years old, and some people live up to over 200 years old? How populated do you think the Earth would be? Today, it would be probably like 20 billion people. And again, like when somebody says, do you want to live forever or do you want to live to a certain age? It's never about, do I want to live forever to a certain age? What's my quality of life going to be? You know, if I can feel and look and be as agile as I am right now, great. And do all my friends and family get to live that long and forever too? Because it's going to be a very lonely life if everybody I love has to die, but I get to live forever. So it's all about, do I have the people with me? And what's my quality of life going to be? Do you know what I mean?
I'm going for 125. Good quality. That's
You're going to do it. You're going to do it, man.
My goal, 125.
Yep. I see your kettlebell workworks. You're going to do it.
Yeah.
You're going to do it.
David it's going to kill me. One or the other.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
That'll be it.
David Lee Barron follows up with $4.99, says, did you guys get the lump in the throat when we transitioned from Austin to Elvis at the cinematic part of Unchained Melody at the end of the movie? I can't remember if I got the lump in my throat, but I thought that transition was brilliant. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
I thought it was really cool.
That was either from
one of his last performances.
Yeah, the South Dakota show or the Iowa show. I can't remember which one now, because his last performance were not taped because they were in Cincinnati and somewhere else, but those weren't taped. His last actual taped performances were a couple weeks beforehand, and it was at one of those two concerts. And yeah, I mean, I don't remember if I just rewatched it again because it became available for digital, so I bought that immediately. I mean, look, first of all, the kid did a phenomenal job. I take nothing away from Kurt Russell, but the more I even go back and watch, and I spent a little time on YouTube watching that since we did the last show, and it just and again, it's 1979. I can't fault Carpenter or Russell for what they did. I just feel like times Russell's playing in kind of a bit of an over-exaggerated version of Elvis. I don't think in general conversations Elvis was like, well, I'm the king, baby. Yeah. Like, I don't think he talked like that when he was just having the conversations with Priscilla. You know what I mean? Like, but the way Butler portrays him in just everyday life, and
he was incredible.
With his mom, or with Priscilla, or with the Colonel or Tom Hanks. Butler just he fucking nails it. I mean, just like he does. If the kid doesn't win the Academy, someone's going to have to do a fucking much more killer job than what he did.
100%.
Were there some things that I wish they could have, like, for example, I wish they wouldn't have glossed over the Live from Hawaii event, because that was that was an important concert. Two, that was the first thing ever that's going to be satellite around the world where a billion people were watching. People don't realize the amount of stress that Elvis was under leading up to that concert and what it did to him physically. Even though it's one of his, the Live from Hawaii is one of his at most, one of his best concerts, next to like That's the Way It Is and the Comeback Special and whatnot, but actually a live show. I just wish there was a little more time, like they did with the Comeback Special. I just wish they had spent a little more time behind the scenes showing us how all that was being put together when they came up with this idea to do this Live from Hawaii show. That's it. That was my only little complaint about it.
Gotcha. Howard, $2 says, does Michael have a kid? I would say no. I would say no. The Classically Deceased sends in $5. Thank you, buddy. Says, hey, Dave, when you worked 2 summers at a theater, did you take home any posters? I worked 8 years at my theater and took home Halloween 2018 Kills and Ends. Very cool. No, I did not. I don't recall taking home any posters. This would have been the late 90s. I don't remember taking home any posters. No, I don't even know if I was allowed. I'm not sure. Sweet tea. The tea is sweet tonight, ladies and gentlemen. $10 for the channel, my friends. P.S. Be safe too. Well, thank you very much, Sweet Tea, and you as well. Chris M. sends in $5 as Wes Craven's son. He made some horror films in 1990. Why doesn't he do something with Elm Street franchise and revive his own career and his dad's legacy? I was unaware that Wes Craven's son did horror films in 1990. How old was his son in 1990? Couldn't have been that old.
Yeah. You know what I just learned?
Why doesn't he do anything with the friend? Well, maybe he doesn't want to. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he just has no interest in doing anything with his dad's legacy. His dad's legacy is firmly intact. And maybe I don't know what he's doing now. Maybe he's in another field. Maybe he's a chef. Maybe he's a real estate agent. I have no idea.
Love
What's
those
that?
Real estate agents.
Yes. Oh, yes, of course.
Do you know? I just found this out. I had no fucking clue that who was father and son connection. Jason Miller, who's the priest in The Exorcist, who consumes the evil spirit there at the end, and saves Reagan.
Mm-hmm.
You know who his son is? Fucking Jason Patrick from Lost Boys. I had no fucking clue that they were father and son in real life.
The priest that saves Reagan.
The priest in The Exorcist, not the old man priest. Damien.
Yeah, not Father Marin. Damien.
Damien. His son in real life is Mike? Is that his name in the Lost Boys?
I can't remember, but I know who Jason Patrick is. Wasn't Jason Patrick in Speed 2? Cruise Control with Sandra Bullock, or is that somebody else?
Corey Haim, which Corey? Corey Haim's older brother in Lost Boys. Yeah. That hit in real life.
I can see it.
From The Exorcist. That's it. And do you know who the priest from The Exorcist fathers is in real life? Jackie Gleason. I was like, what? Jackie Gleason is the grandfather of the actor who plays Mike in Lost Boys, whose father is the
really?
That's some shit right there for you.
Holy shit. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Relatives, Jackie Gleason, grandfather. Holy fuck.
I know. I was like, what? That's his grandfather? Wow. That's some fucking crazy shit.
Wow.
Now, is it the priest? Is it because Jason Miller, that's Jason Miller's father, or is it because the mom was related, was Jackie Gleason's father?
That's a good question. I don't. Let me see.
That's
here.
the only
Jason
part of
Miller?
this connect. Yeah, Jason Miller. Who was his father? Was it Jackie Gleason? That's how I thought the connection was.
Spouse Linda Gleason, for including I don't know, but either way he would be, if it's his mother or his father, like by blood, like direct, either way he's
someone says I think Gleason was the mother's father.
Okay, it says here,
so Jason. Okay, so Jason Miller, who's the priest in the woman he knocked up, got pregnant. That woman, her father was Jackie Gleason. Okay,
fascinating.
So that's the connection to Gleason. Still, it's crazy that they're connected like that. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't think it. You know,
that's really cool. I did not know that.
Yeah,
I did not know that. Alex G sends in $4.99. Says, "Hey guys, met John Carpenter at Steel City Con this weekend. He was really cool to talk to. Awesome. Yeah, I saw some photos of him in the old H78 station wagon. He looked happy, even though he's got the same sort of expression on his face all the time. You could tell that he was having a good time. It's subtle. It's micro expressions when it comes to John Carpenter." And then, okay, that. And then fast forwards, 289 sends in $4.99. Says, great ideas, guys. You guys should help make 12-hour work. You guys your guys' shows help make 12-hour work nights go by quicker. Awesome, buddy. Really glad that we can help out in that regard. And then John Dez sends in $4.99. Says, Dave, please give us an H6 Loomis impression.
Drunk Loomis.
Yeah, but Drunk Loomis is H5.
Drunk Loomis. No, here's how you should do the impression. It should be Drunk Loomis doing an impression of Donald Trump.
Oh, I don't even know how I would. I don't know. I don't know how I
You can do it. Come on, Dave.
No,
You're the voice man.
I don't even know what's a line in 6. Well, there's this line in 6 that I always like, where he's at his typewriter or whatever it is, and you hear, Dr. Loomis, isn't that guy dead or whatever? And then Donald Pleasance turns and goes, not dead, just very much retired. And he sounds like he's about to drop. He does sound like he's about to drop dead. But that's what not dead, but just very much retired. And it's like, who are you talking to?
All right, so now do Drunk Loomis do Drunk Loomis doing an impression of Donald Trump.
I don't care. That's what it would be. It wouldn't sound like anything. It wouldn't sound like Trump at all. It would just be like, it'd be insane.
Oh, dude, it's 8 o'clock. I gotta run.
All right. Okay, you gotta run. It's 8 o'clock.
Yes.
All right, folks, listen, that's going to do it. Sorry we couldn't stick around a bit longer for the Q&A, but Tony has to run. So that's going to do it.
Get my bro.
That's right. For episode 162 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit, thank you to those Super Chat questions. Thank you to our moderators, of course, Frank Riker, Tabitha Short, Darren Sands, Chris Baber. And thank you for tuning in. Comment below and let Tony and I know your thoughts on our alternate version of Halloween 4 and some of the things we put forward today and sort of how we believe it would make Halloween 5 that much better and where Halloween 5's focus would be. And of course, that would be the end though. Like we wouldn't end Halloween 5 to set up a Halloween 6. No. It would just be like 4 and 5, a 2 back-to-back, like how Halloween 1 and 2 were. And that would be it. Comment below and let Tony and I know. Would love to know. We'll be back next week. Next Monday night, 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tony, any last things?
Nope.
All right. That's it. Take care, folks. Have a great rest of your week. We'll talk to you soon. Cheers.